Well, effect of that movement around that right-hander meant that he was the one that got left out and hung out and found himself on the seat of his pants. Not for long, he'll be back in, he'll dust himself off. Meanwhile, the 8 riders in the breakaway group tapping out a steady rhythm, but a pretty painful one, you can be sure, because they are only at this point really enjoying, well, less than 2.5 minutes advantage. It was up around about 5 minutes and 38 seconds. So this is about management. But in this kind of racing, it's not, the peloton aren't going to back off once they start this charge. Once they get into these hills, they're not going to be, of a mind to give the breakaway group some rope. It'll be a slightly different dynamic playing out.
Yeah, well, it's only 2.5 minutes back to the peloton. You can just see Sam Bewley he slides out in the corner, just taking it to, too far on the left-hand side, banks over and down he comes. Unfortunately for Orica, Green Edge and Sam, he was still standing at the side of the road trying to get service from his team car. But look, this is the easiest place to ride one of these races from the front, but you have to make the effort in the first half hour. It's a big effort to make. Once you're in the breakaway, this settles down. What you get in the peloton is an acceleration and deceleration, and that sometimes tires you out. You want to be at the front, and that's why the peloton and the big teams in this race will look after the riders and they'll burn matches. And so you look after your team leader, get him on good position. The peloton just ride up this climb like the others do, but it's all about position, because peloton will be probably 20-30 seconds from the front to the back in a road like this, and say over the top the attack starts, that's you pretty much lost the race. So at any time over the next I would say 30-40 kilometers, you could get an acceleration in one of these climbs, and if you're not there, then you're going to miss out. Look at the length of the peloton now. If your leaders at the back, see, they're just riding as slow as or as fast as the breakaways is riding at the moment. You can see Sky looking after their men, Tony Martin at front for Ethics. You can see Katusha right up there on the left-hand side. You can see obviously the riders from Trek. So they're all doing a job. They're just riding. It's all about position. Get position into this climb and then just ride easy up the climb. So they're riding. The gap's not coming down. It's staying at the same distance, but it's just about positioning, because anything can happen over the top of this climb. And if you're down the back, then you've got hard chasing on your hands. Yeah, it actually looks quite sedate and serene at the front of the group, and not particularly demanding, but what it's taken to get there, well, a little bit of extra effort. The battle into this position, because anything can happen now. Right? You don't want to be at the back, because if they start racing and the bunch starts splits, then your race is over. So it's learning how to when to move up, when to make the effort, because the teammates, they're smiling, they're happy, they've got good position, it's a lot easier, there's less stress at the front of the peloton, but you have to make that effort in the last few kilometres up. See what happens behind this concertina effect, and you just don't want to get involved with this type of thing. It's a lot easier at the front, but you need your teammates, you need your team leader to be looked after right near the front, nice and easy. Or you rush down the back, see the Trek rider just sitting there nice and easy, but if they decide to attack over the top of this climb or at any part in this climb, his race is over, so it's a risk you take. Tony Martin in the centre of picture. Ethics Quick-Step back in the fold for them this weekend, and Patrick Lefebvre, he's an interesting character. Speaking during the week, he had a couple of interesting comments to make about his team and their performance to date so far. Needless to say, he was fairly glowing in his praise of Gaviria, the wonderful Colombian sprinter they have, who could well have come up with a great result but for that late race crash in San Remo last weekend. But for Tony Martin, he just said, well, could do a little bit better, or, he wasn't quite, he was sort of damning with faint praise, or with lack of praise, really. I think the suggestion was that he might have expected a little bit more from Tony Martin thus far, so I suspect we're going to see, and Guillaume van Kersbroek, he said that he's just got to get into more moves, so he's not afraid to say it, not afraid to say it in public, and it will be interesting to see whether perhaps we see a little bit of more of Tony Martin on screen towards the back end of this afternoon's race. A rider from Fortuneo just making his way to the front. Yeah, that was Hutarovic. He just taken, he knows, everybody knows at the top of these climbs, you'll see when we pass the top of the climb, there'll be a lot of team support run to the car and go off to another part. But he'll know, you see Lotto Soudal car there, they'll know that the team's there, and he had a cape in his hand, so he'll just throw it off to his team support. The race will go past, and that Lotto Soudal car, you'll see that car and another climb in a few kilometres' time.
Yeah, it's a fascinating exercise in logistics, getting various team supporters to work their way from climb to climb through the day. You'll see familiar faces amongst the spectators as well, because they're in a similar race from between the hills to try and catch sight of their heroes as often as possible. Meanwhile, the relaxed and yet intense progress of the 8 riders up front continues. 2.5 minutes to the good. Up from the main group, they're trying to make their way back after yet another one of these hills. They're coming thick and fast. The next one up, the Hottenberg, comes with 86 kilometers remaining. And clearly that was, well, not exactly a recommended way to indicate that motorbike was in the way. Just, was he just letting him know, or was he taking a little slingshot off it? You decide. Marangoni of Cannondale. Meanwhile, Team Sky take it up on the front, and they've got pretty much all the team on the front. They've got a pretty good lineup here as well. You would expect that a lot of their thinking is going to be directed towards Ian Stannard this afternoon. Big, powerful classics man, making a real name for himself. But remember, they've got former world champion Michal Kwiatkowski. They've got a fast finisher in the shape of Elia Viviani. And they've got great team riders who can also do a job. Michal Golas, Christian Canet, Salvatore Puccio, and what about Andy Fenn? So it's a pretty strong lineup from Team Sky this afternoon, Brian.
It is, and that's why they're riding on the front. They've got different options. Obviously, they won this race last year with Geraint Thomas, and Geraint obviously not here riding Catalonia. Well, I say riding Catalonia, I don't think he started today because of a bit of fatigue that he's saying, but definitely Stannard is a good bet for today. Strong rider, showed well in Milan San Remo. And then Luke Rowe, he's already shown how well he can ride in the first cobbled races in Belgium earlier on in the year. So they have got plenty of options, and that's why they're riding towards the front. See, this is what I was saying just about before. We turn left here. Everybody knows you put the pressure on here, you get good position. You can see Ethics with Kaiser at the front, Tony Martin, then you get Terpstra, the Dutch champion in 3rd place, Vandenberg is there. Pretty much the whole team is there. Stibar, Trentin, Bonin right up towards the front. So when you see a team like this, very experienced, know what they're doing, come to the front. This is a crucial point. You don't want to be down the back when you see the blue jerseys of Ethics at the front of the peloton.
Yeah, Tom Bonin lining up. He's got 2 of his teammates behind him, and the rest of the team lined up in front of him as Ethics quick step, put the hammer down in a big way and make things very, very difficult indeed for the rest of the riders in the peloton. They're all trying to find position. They're hopping across that little divot in the middle of the road. Those concrete slabs that make up Belgian roads are really challenging, and you've got to be at the top of your bike handling ability to be able to race in these kind of conditions. Tom Bonin, 5-time winner of this race, the most successful ever rider in the history of E3 Harelbeke, a race that, as I said, is into its 59th edition this year. Began back in 1958. The first winner was Armand Desmet. He was a domestic for Rick Van Looy himself. Went on to win this event 4 times in the 1960s. Direct Energy. Wasn't Cockard, was it? Might have been Roman Cardi looking for numbers. Definitely not Cockard. And that was a pretty swift exit from the bunch, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's obviously got a puncture he's going to have to ride, because at that point his group's going out the back, and that's what the commissaires do. They put a barrage, and the barrage to this group means that the team cars are way behind, and it could be race over for him.
Would he not have been, if it is a puncture, would he not have been better minded to
another puncture now? That's what I'm saying. It's a lot easier to change fuel, because the cars are way back behind that group that's been dropped. So the commissars have put a barrage in. There actually should be a neutral service car here at this stage, but anything can happen in these roads, and obviously a puncture like this takes 2 of your teammates out.
Yeah, it looks like Van Emden helping Martin Wijnants. Wijnants gets the wheel.
These cars not even in sight, so this is what happens. But it's going to be a hard chase. He'll wait for the cars to come up. He will get some help from some of the cars, but when the pressure's on from a team like Ethics, There's no quarter given. Doesn't matter. We got on with. They got on with the race, and you know, we're seeing the Shimano neutral service car servicing someone else now. Yeah, so there's all sorts of punctures now.
One of the Bora Argon team. Apologies, Brian. Ryan Mullen also trying to make his way back in. Former under-23 world time trial silver medalist. And he'd like to get involved with Winans in the job of trying to get back on. Seth Van Mark is finally Classics home races cobbles fun. That's what he's been tweeting. Didn't do that lately. He's pushing hard out there to come up with a result this afternoon. What can he and the Lotto NL Jumbo team come up with? Well, remains to be seen. Martin Winans will hopefully be able to make his way back in very quickly, but in this kind of situation you don't have the long cavalcade of cars that you can hop from one car to the next with apparent ease. Well, it's going to be a really tough chase for Winans in that situation, isn't it?
The thing is, there's no real need to kind of barrage. If the riders are getting dropped, they're getting dropped because they're, you know, they're tired, they haven't got the legs. So sometimes the commissaires will barrage a group that's been pulled out the back and let some cars through, but you can see what's just happened. There was a case of about 3 punctures there. One neutral service car, they stopped for the Bora Aragon rider, and unfortunately Winans took from his own teammates. So that's them, you know, 2 riders trying to come back to the race, and obviously the Direct Energy rider, don't know where he is, but he'll have a tough time coming back.
Meanwhile, the riders at the front of the race, it's all relatively calm and collected for them, for the 8 riders up front as they arrive at the next climb of the day, the Cortacare. Just 1,000 metres, average is 6.4%, but they're going to start hurting at this stage. Well over 100 kilometres in the legs, 206 kilometres in total. That's the difference between this race and Tour of Flanders, really. This is a tough day out, but not quite the distance of Tour of Flanders, and that's where it really gets the, you know, separates the big guys from the strong Classics men.
But the thing is, Declan, the maximum gradient of this next climb is 17%. Straight afterwards, you've got the Teenberg, 18%. So over the course of the next few kilometres, and that's why Ethics have come to the front, you have got some, you know, couple of steep climbs, and so it's important to take it on from the front, and that's why we see the whole team riding. It's all about position, and you know, slowly but surely it's about keeping a good position and you know, keeping as much energy in the team leaders as possible, because if you're having to come back and you know, your teammates are having to bring you back all the time, you're going to get tired.
Breakaway group, Antoine Demoty at the back of the group for Wanty Group Gobert is in good form at the moment. He won a race recently, so a little bit of a surprise to see him going in the break, actually. But because the expectation would be that the guys in the break are going to be caught by the peloton, and that they'll have burnt all their matches. They won't really be in physical condition to be able to hang on with the main group when things get pretty busy within the last 50-40 kilometres. Look at the way it just stops, comes to a dead halt.
It's position into this right-hand corner, right? Now that they're into the right-hand corner, you've seen it in the previous climb. A couple of riders have just kind of fallen over, damage to the bike, so it looks as if they're going to need some change here. But this narrower road, if you see the front of the peloton, they'll just be riding easy. Nice and easy. It's about positioning at key stages or key places in this parkour today.
Is that Viviani? I think it could well be, and that would be a blow to Team Sky's fortunes if they've lost their best sprinting prospect, and has been on the track of late. Cracking Omnium rider, and a man who's no mean road racer either. And he would
Winans going through there as well.
Winans making his way back up, but Viviani, it's a frustrating wait for him, isn't it? And no sign of any service, and this is an indication of just how important it is to stay up front. The road's apparently smooth and without any difficulties, but the riders are still picking up punctures. And at the back of the peloton, well, the riders are really starting to labour, aren't they? This is a tough time for Kenton Jarugui, as Team Orica Green Edge's Svein Tuft, a man who knows how to get around a long road race, makes his way back on. Did he hit difficulties because of form, or was there some mechanical issue that prevented him? Team Sky still pushing up front, and we just zone in to try and get an idea of what difficulty exactly befell Elia Viviani. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if perhaps someone caught his rear mech and the wasn't perhaps a clash of bikes there.
You never know, the concertina effect, and you know, these are things what happens, but this is the whole point. Now they're riding up easy, and it's all about position. You have to be at the front. Tony Martin doing a stellar performance for Ethics in the blue in the right-hand side, but Team Sky taking control here. You see Luc Rowe just in the middle there, Puccio and Christian Kanish just in front of him, Stannard over on the left-hand side. So they've been riding well over the kind of crucial parts. You never know when it's going to, you know, they're going to start racing, but it's all about position before these climbs, and then it's just easy. And you know, the concertina at the back, you saw it in the last climb where you go over the top, then they raced a little bit, and guys started getting dropped because you know, they're at the back. This is the easy part on probably the hardest part of this.
It's ironic,
this
isn't
hill.
it? Yeah. It's the people, and it's somewhat ironic as well that the people who have most talent actually get to use the least energy at the crucial moments. I mean, that's what they've earned. That's what their talent and their strength, their physical ability has earned them. This is what it looks like from the back end, and it is a little bit difficult, isn't it? A little bit testing for those riders, and they know they've got to try and find a way back in. Svang Tuft, just that little extra jump out of the saddle as the group stretches behind. And look at the spectators off on the left-hand side, racing to get in the car to make it to the next hill, because this is a race of sorts amongst the spectators. Challenge to see as much of the race as possible. Great effort from Romain Cardi. After his difficulty, we saw him standing at the side of the road. Looked like he was going to be there forever, but he's managed to find his way back into the peloton in
yeah, it's been a bit of a hard chase for him, but he's there and he's still in the race.
1:43 now to the break. All these efforts between the hills from the bunch is paying dividends. Lotto Soudal hammering on the front as meanwhile the breakaway group hit the next climb of the day. We're on the Tyenberg. 1:42 the advantage as the riders go heading into the gutter to get what they can. It's only 650 meters, but look at that, max of 18%, 9.5% average. This is a little bit of a leg breaker, and you know that by the fact that the crowd have made their way out in force. Great to see such huge crowds out, attracted no doubt by the good weather and the prospect of, well, just several weeks of this kind of racing, really. They'll all be out on the roads, and there won't be too much work done in the next little while. At the back, struggling a little bit, it would appear, or maybe he's just leaving a little bit of a gap just in case one of the riders in front comes to grief. That's Demoiti of Wanty Group Gobert. Just in front of him, Tony Harel from Direct Energy, and Team Rompot's Sjoerd van Ginneken, 23-year-old Dutchman, sits just in front of him. Bert de Backer from Giant Alpecin in the black colours with the white stripes, and AG Tour Le Mondial, those brown shorts with the white and blue jersey in front, represented on this occasion by Nico Dents, the 22-year-old German. Also in there, Jay Thompson. We'll have to mention Data. Wouter Whippert from Team Cannondale. A minute and a half now just to the group up front.
Well, the race is on now. Everybody knows this used to be, Mike still is, one of Bonen's favourite climbs, and here he comes up. He loves this climb. He normally rides onto it. We've seen him attack up this in so many different races in the past, but Rollins is a rider, third in Milan San Remo at the front, but Bonen just behind him with Thies Benoot in third place.
Yeah, he's looking to roll back the years, isn't he? Tornado Tom Tomica fancies it, but Jürgen Rollins is bossing the Tyenberg at the moment, and well, Tom Bonen, who in the past we've seen dance up this hill as if it was hardly there, and riders flapping in his wake behind.
But having said that, look at the difference. You get Rollins there, you've got Bonen, Thies Benoot, you've got Oss and Trentin at the back. The gap already. This looks as if it's Cancellara Trentin, but look at the numbers of Ethics, and that's why it's important to be in the front at this particular point.
Big split here. If those riders get across, I think that could well be your selection, because it's got some of the heaviest hitters you've got in international bike racing, with Fabian Cancellara finding himself left out a little bit, and they've got a serious chase on board here and some proper riders up front. But Tom Bonin is in there, Jurgen Rollins, Tej Benoot, as you say. And interesting that you mentioned Daniel Oss, because Greg Van Avermaet, a non-starter this morning for BMC, the man who's been the predominant figure of Belgian cycling so far this year, has unfortunately a little bit of illness, not able to start, and that could well have let Daniel Oss off the leash. A great opportunity for him. Meanwhile, time to survey what sort of group is coming up. Looks like Terpstra has managed to make that little chase group, and this is a very interesting selection.
It is, and the next group was led by Luke Rowe, and Luke Rowe, no Sky Riders towards the front, so Luke Rowe was trying to come back, and I noticed that Peter Sagan was at the back of this group, but it's Lotto Soudal have ridden well today, pushing hard in the front with Tej Benoot. You can see there are three blue jerseys from Ethics. Oss is the rider you mentioned. Cancellara is there for track. So you've got numbers. This is a good opportunity. I think it's Lars Bohm. It's there at the back for Astana. But obviously, Cancellara not wanting to work with so many Ethics and Lotto riders there. Terpstra is also there. So 4 riders from Ethics. Pressure's on them. They've got 4 riders in this front group. It's up to them to take it on from the front.
Well, you can be sure they're going to push, and Nicky Terpstra knows exactly how to do that. No better man, the reigning champion in the road race from the Netherlands. Nicky Terpstra with a handy win in Les Amis, former winner of Paris-Roubaix, of course, and when he gets to putting the watts down, well, it's going to be very difficult for these riders to get back in contention. And look at the way that field, which was, what, 150 riders at least, and probably more by the time they came, when they got to the bottom of that hill. And now it's split into groups of 10 and 12 riders. And Terpstra will be calling for this motorbike to move ahead very shortly.
I think he'll happy it's there.
Well, yeah, but Lefebvre was saying the other day that Van Avermaet had the advantage of the motorbike and almost got his win out of it, and Terpstra was putting down 450 watts behind and still couldn't close the gap. So while it ultimately wasn't to Greg Van Avermaet's advantage, he didn't get the win the other day. But well, Terpstra wasn't able to catch him, and they were mighty annoyed. So yeah, he probably was happy to get the advantage on that occasion. He wasn't gesticulating and remonstrating.
The man in the yellow, the man we just read out to tweet, Sepp van Mark is there. So plenty of numbers there for Ethics. A couple of riders in there from the Lotto Soudal in the reds. They have got Rollins and Tej Benoot. And just looking back to this next group, I think this is a Sky-led group. There's 4 of them towards the front. I think I noticed that the world champion is in this group towards the back. Don't know if he's still there, but that's what I'm saying. This selection was made 20 kilometres ago. Remember when they started coming towards the front? They came to the front because of this part of the road. It's all about positioning and positioning your rider towards the front. And unfortunately for a lot of them, they've been left behind by the power of Ethics driving 4 riders at the front of this race now. Yeah,
and it's not just the hill itself. It's also the narrow twisting roads that follow that make it difficult for groups to get back in touch. And you've got to really put down the hammer and get as much horsepower on the road. That's not as easy when you've got those winding, twisting roads. Out of sight, out of mind definitely is the case. As we see Tom Bonin now on the front, and all the riders riding through. He's got the company of Matteo Trentin. Nicky Terpstra is there as well. There are at least 2 Ethics riders in the chase group behind that aren't obliged to chase. So it would, even if this chase group does manage to get back into contention, well, it doesn't. They'd still have big numbers. Meanwhile, we've almost forgotten about the breakaway. This is the front of the race. Well, we saw them very briefly. It's just now a little bit over a half-a-minute advantage for the 8 riders up front that have been out there since about kilometre 30. They'll be feeling a little bit cooked at this point, and they've got some of the big heavy hitters in E3, Harelbeke, working their way back into contention. Among them, Sepp van Mark. For Lotto NL Jumbo, he'll be feeling a little bit vulnerable, a little bit exposed, but he's got a lot of horsepower. And he saw last year that Geraint Thomas...
Okay, just to bring you up to speed, Declan, with these 10 riders at the front, you get 4 from Ethics in the blue, albeit Terpstra is going through to the front with the Dutch Champions jersey on. So you get Terpstra, Bonin, Trentin, Stibar. Bennett and Rollins are there for Lotto Soudal in the red. Also in the red with black is Daniel Oss. Van Mark is the rider in the yellow, Lotto NL Jumbo, and Cancellara in the white and the black for Trek, and Boom, the Astana colours of the kind of light blue, the aqua blue. This is the, I'd say, the third group on the road, because you've got the breakaway of original 8 riders, 10 riders, and now Sky chasing hard at the front of this small group.
Team Sky have missed the boat. They're on the front. They're chasing hard. And this is a difficult moment. This is a crucial moment in E3 Harelbeke. Will they be able to get back into contention? The time gap you're seeing is between the breakaway group and the group of favourites, just over half a minute behind. What is the distance between these two? We'll see very shortly. So now the battle is joined. 4 riders, as Brian has said, from Edix Quickstep. They have got the numerical advantage in this group of favourites that is chasing down the breakaway group that have been out there all day, and in turn are being chased by a similar-sized group, maybe a little bit bigger, and that's being led by 3-4 riders from Team Sky that have missed out on this occasion. So 4 riders from Edix Quickstep, 2 from Lotto Soudal, 1 from Lotto NL Jumbo, 1 rider from Trek Factory Racing, 1 rider from BNC, and 1 rider on the very front is, looks like Lars Bohm from the Team Astana. That's just rolling off the front in the sky blue colours, leaving it up to Edix Quickstep as well, you might expect. But there aren't too many riders that are missing turns here.
No, see, you can't. If you start missing turns, the 2 riders that might think about it are Van Mark at the back. He's just pushing slightly up, put his hand on his back. It's down to Etix. Still a long way to go, just under 70 kilometres. But with 4 strong riders, you have to kind of leave it up to yourself, because if this does go away, then, you know, with only 1 rider from Lotto NL and 1 from Astana, they'll be up against it. So it's up to the riders with numbers to make more work on the front. And so Boom and Van Mark are just kind of sitting on, trying to save a little bit of energy. But you know, this race is just kind of blown apart in the last 5 kilometres. The next group is led by Sky, as you say. They've got 4 riders towards that front. It's also in there was the world champion, Peter Sagan, but very noticeable that the world champion had absolutely no teammates in that group behind to help. So who's going to chase that down? You've got 6 riders, maybe more, 7 riders willing to keep the pressure on. This is the original breakaway of 8 riders led by Hollenstein. Just behind, you've got this strong group trying to come across. The race is still not over from the Sky-led group of about 18-20 riders.
Oh, and problems.
Cancellara,
yeah,
no cars in the gap. So this is a big instance here. I don't know even where the neutral service car is, so this could be helping this Sky-led group now.
Well, a cursory look over the shoulder at Fabian Cancellara as if to say, I don't mind. Well, this race hasn't been so lucky for Fabian Cancellara of late. 3-time winner of E3 Harelbeke, going for a 4th this afternoon. Finds he's unshipped his chain.
Too bad.
But there's more problems there for this bike. So
rear mech looks as if it's in
game over for Cancellara, because at the end of the day, you know, when the race splits up like this, there's absolutely no cars. There's not enough service cars.
Oh, that's frustrating for Fabian Cancellara. He just throws the bike aside as if to say, well, what have I got to do? He's got himself in absolutely fine form. Remember, this was the race last year that he crashed and cracked a couple of vertebrae, lost his classic season as a result of it. So it hasn't been kind to him in recent years. But as I said, he's a 3-time winner of E3, and he's got good form, but he would really like to have tested it. He's surely done for the day. He's not going to get back into contention, and now it's all about picking up the car so he can get a lift home. Wow, frustration for a resigned Fabian Cancellara by the side of the road, and now he's probably going to have to sign a few autographs as well.
No, it's unfortunate. I'd love him to have stayed in that group there. It would have, you know, helped the excitement of the race. We don't see it, you know, a champion like that being taken out just because of, you know, it looked like a simple mechanical. Anything can happen in these races, and it has happened. It happened last year when he crashed. At least he's still there. He's going to get a spare bike. He's going to continue, because this is a big preparation for Tour of Flanders. So he's going to get his bike now, hopefully. He's going to carry on like a true champion and try and use this. I don't think he'll get back to the front now, but at least it shows you what sort of person Cancellara is. Most people would have said, I've had enough of this. I've come for the front near the back, but he's going to carry on because he's got bigger fish to fry. I'm not saying this is a bad race, but when you look at what's involved in the next few weeks. But saying that, as we see Cancellara, the Sky group with the world champion fourth from the back has made it back to the front of the race. Exciting times.
It certainly is. It's all kicking off in a big way in E3 at Harelbeke. We've lost out on one of the big-time favourites of this race, but he's still in the race, and that really does, well, it's a credit to him, isn't it? His attitude clearly is all about respecting the race, perhaps too also thinking about the hard racing miles that he'll get. He's in the cars, and he's going to, well, push for as long as he possibly can. You can be sure that he's got some, he'll have some assistance from Track Factory Racing as well to make the most of what's left of this race. The 66 kilometres for those riders that are at the front. Just how far in front of Fabian Cancellara are they at the moment, and could he conceivably have anything left, even if he was by some miracle able to get back into position, remains to be seen. But it's all rejoined up front, and riders from the breakaway group that have been out front all day have also been retained. So you've now got quite a big group up front, but they're all pretty strong riders, with the exception of one or two who've been mopped up from the early break of the day.
So just I am at the front with Devon Hines. So we can see a small selection just behind Stijn Vandenberg trying to come up, so that could make more riders for Ethics towards the front. But it was unfortunate for Cancellara. He does have one teammate or two teammates in this group, but just look at the gaps back now. I don't, you know, you can see the main peloton now. This is it. Just turns around here, just change gear. Simple thing. He never put big pressure on, but just a minor problem here, and Cancellara goes from the front to the back of this race.
Yeah, well, when he tries to put his chain on,
the
he
gear
just
was
rips
off,
the rear mech. Yeah,
I've seen this happen so many. It's not a fault of the equipment of the bike. This is just some things that happens in professional cycling. It's happened with so many other riders. It's just a gear change, maybe at the wrong time. He's experienced enough, but
yeah, the dropout is
nice
made to be, you know, the weakest link in that chain there, so that the frame is less likely to break. And I think it was just the fact that as the chain got on, it all caught up a little bit of a tangle of gears and chains, and the dropout immediately snaps. And that means a new bike for Fabian Cancellara and the end of his hopes and dreams for E3 this afternoon. That's the expectation anyway. He's going to ride his way up through this group and off the front, and we're going to get a demonstration of the difference between really good pros and the very, very top riders in the world. Yeah, it's not often you see, just pointing out there, it was Carlos Betancourt, so it's not often you see in a race like this, you see Betancourt and Cancellara at this point in the race in the same group. Oh, indeed. It's a bit of a surprise to see Carlos Betancourt here at all. Oops. And, yep, two different views of the best way to take that corner. The thing is, you know, he's a Belgian rider. He should have known and seen the marshal there, but it just goes to show you there's big pressure on. You know, they're just all hanging off the back of this group, and he wanted to come back, and just too much pressure going into that corner. Lars Bohm rolls to the front, and just behind him, Daniel Oss from Team BMC. Well, De Vries is the rider at the front for Astana, yeah. So De Vries and Bohm are there. This is Stijn Vandenberg. Stijn Vandenberg coming round this corner, so they're just in front, and that'll give Ethics another big rider in the front of this race. Yeah, so Lars Bohm has some a little bit of assistance, and Ethics Quickstep with the big numbers as a group of what, 25 maybe? Yeah, you had a group of about maybe 14 riders. This guy led chase, 10 riders, and then you've got to remember you've had some of the riders from the original breakaway. So there could be about 20-25 riders in this front group. Tony Martin has made it up there for Ethics, so that gives Ethics, if Vandenberg gets here, could have at least 6 riders. Yeah, virtually no one missing. Started with 8. That's an impressive performance. Vandenberg's not there yet, and remember there's, what, 25-odd riders up front, many of whom are making an appearance at the front. So this is a big effort required from Vandenberg. He's got to try and recover and then do a job immediately after that. So Team Sky with Ian Stannard just sitting second in line. Here's their big hope for the afternoon. Might be well advised to put the hammer down, because well, they don't really want to make any more Ethics quick steps in there. As it is, they've already got huge firepower. Will Vandenberg make it? It's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, with Puccio keeping the pressure on, he'll know that Van den Berg is trying to come up, and you know, you want to try and make it as hard as possible. You don't want another Ethics rider coming up to the front of the peloton. Note Jempe Drucker is also there for BMC, so BMC have got Os and Jempe Drucker. So can Van den Berg make it on this small climb?
We're on the Eichenberg. There are 6 hills remaining after this out of the 15. So still plenty of opportunities for riders to show what they're made of, and indeed for all sorts of drama and excitement. Van den Berg looks like he's going to get there. Let's not count any chickens for him at the moment. Perhaps Tony Martin has just been given the information that he's got a teammate coming up, and all the help they can get, well, Van den Berg's been one of the strong men of classics racing over the last few years. He's an absolute giant of a rider. Physically imposing figure in the bunch, and just the sort of physique that you need for this kind of racing.
Look, Jasper Stuyven is in this front group as well for Trek. Do you see the world champion on the right-hand side? But it does look as if after that fairly hard chase, Van den Berg is going to make it 6th front of this race for Ethics.
Savage effort from Van den Berg. Great effort too for Jasper Stuyven to be up there, because with the absence of Fabian Cancellara, it gives Trek Factory Racing, well, a very, very decent card to play. Stuyven trying to take a little bit of heat off himself in recent days, saying, well, no, it's all about Fabian. I'm still learning, I'm still young, but he's a rider well capable of coming up with a big result. As Peter Sagan goes to the back of the group just for a little look and survey the scene and hope that no one notices that the Arc-en-Ciel jersey is there.
Impressive from Cancellara, still in this back group, and you know, he's at the bottom of this climb where the front of the race is at the front, so prepared to race. He knows he needs a hard race, some big races coming up with Flanders and Roubaix, and obviously he wants to try and win both of them again.
Well, he's got some seasoned professionals for company at the moment. No one's capable of giving him any hands. Stybar, yeah, has just lost a little bit of ground there. Was that because of legs, or was that because of some other difficulty? Now, what group is Cancellara making his way back into? Because they pulled the cars out to give him the opportunity, and he's just got riders in his wake and absolutely charging up here. Great to see this, the way he's really giving it maximum to try and get back involved in this race. We completely wrote off his chances. Were we a little bit previous on that?
I don't think so. Stybar is struggling here. They'll know that Cancellara, they don't want him back. It's going to be very difficult, because you come into the the main body of the peloton now. You know, the front group is probably about 30-40 seconds, maybe more in front now. So it's going to be very difficult to bring him back. But he does have some help in this group, and that's Popovic trying to help him just in front. But it'll be a huge effort if Cancellara makes it back to the front of this race now.
So Jaroslav Popovic, who's been a super domestic in every sense of the term for quite a long time, and he is lining himself up to give a bit of a dig out as Andy Fenn finds himself going south for Team Sky. Meanwhile, Tony Martin on the front has Tom Bonin in his wake. The jaw set from the Panzerwagen. And the riders at the front able to take a little bit of a breather as they prepare for the next assault. That just comes in a couple of kilometers time. That's to Statienberg, 460 meters, one of the shortest hills of the day. And Stybar looks like he just quite hasn't got enough today. So a little bit of a surprise that after such a stellar start to the season from the Czech rider. It's not going to work out for him on this occasion, it would appear. Tony Harel from the early break has been jettisoned as well, as the leading group makes their relentless way back towards Harelbeke. Tom Bonin on the front, 60 kilometers to go in E3 Harelbeke. So this is the chase group of Trek Factory Racing, with third in line here Fabian Cancellara after that difficulty where he broke his rear dropout and had to take a new bike and took a long time to get it. He finds himself floundering a distance behind. We're given the indication that this is the front of the peloton, and they are just over a minute behind. Well, that was 1 minute and 15 seconds. Well, not a kilometre ago. So they're really eating into the advantage up front. How much energy is being expended here by Cancellara and friends? Well, the gap is coming down. Is it coming down quick enough to get back into contention? Because back on the front of the peloton, it's being led, not surprisingly, by Ethics Quick-Step. They've got 6 riders in the lead group of about 25 up front, and Tony Martin is the one that's setting the tempo. They're trying to make a decision about how hard, how fast and how much to push as Martin takes them into the next section of cobbles. Stationsberg, 460 metres long, the shortest climb of the afternoon. Not the most arduous, but at this point, with just under 60 kilometres remaining, well, the legs will be starting to hurt a little bit. How to play it, Brian? You need to keep the pressure on, but not to the point where you completely blow all your chances before you get to the final proper.
With riders in the front group, Ethics have to take it on. They get the former world time trial champion on the front, keeping the pressure on. They don't want Cancellara to come back. It's you know, very interesting to see the battle that Trek have got now to try and bring him back. Walter Whippert, who's in the original breakaway of 8, just getting spat out the back here of the front group. It's, you know, just for him being there, it's been a good performance. But Cancellara within a minute now. He's got 2 teammates, Irizar and Popovic, with him, but it's going to be very difficult. They have got Stuyven. You can just see the rider in the white on the right hand side, so they have got a couple of riders here to battle with, but you know, they'll keep them there. They won't bring them back for Cancellara, because then if they don't come back, then there would nobody in this front group.
Gap showing now less than a minute, so it's still coming down. But these are dangerous times for the peloton if they have ambitions of being involved in the shake-up. Speaking of which, riders getting a bit of a shaking there in a big way, aren't they? A little cracks and splits developing over that climb and through that little left-hander.
You can just see that Tony Martin doesn't really like this, the kind of technical parts of these courses. You know, there's big questions whether he would, you know, how he'd get on in the classics. So he's strong enough riding on the front. When it gets really technical, that's where he starts to, you know, kind of fall away a little bit. But great to see him at the front group.
Yeah, I mean, for so many years, people have said he's got the physique and the power to really do a job. At Paris-Roubaix is probably the most obvious, but it is a very technical exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, just coming in, T-spin out, he's right on the wheel and he kind of ease back. He doesn't feel at home on the cobbles in these type of races, but he's strong enough to be here, that's for sure.
Gaps indicating that it's gone out again. Was that a problem in the lead group up front? One of the Wanty Group Gobert riders looked as if was on the floor there. So now we've had splits at the front and at the back of the peloton. Looks as if that's Fabian Cancellara is going to tag on to another group. Was this a group in between? The riders in front and cars in front, so I wonder if Cancellara didn't hit on problems again. And here we're going to get an indication, and he's almost comes to grief behind those riders, and they're just desperately trying to, that's Frederick Backhart from Wanty Group Gobert, desperate to try and get out of the way before he's run over by a flying Spartacus. The Cannondale rider as well on the floor, and is well, there's nothing as arduous and technical and demanding as a downhill cobbled right-hand corner. Had in a bit of rain and that would have been, well, carnage completely, but as it was, just 2 riders coming to grief.
You see Trek coming to the front now and trying to kind of slow down things down at the front ever so slightly. Yeah, I think 57 seconds, you know, Cancellara here, he's making a big effort. He's lost Irizar and Popovic, but they're just round the corner within a minute, but it's a huge effort, and I don't think for one moment Ethics will want Cancellara to come back. So still, you know, enough time to do it, but it's what effort he's taking out himself now.
So you believe that Ethics will be aware of what the gap is? They'll be satisfied if it's a minute, but if it comes down to sort of less than half a minute, then the hammer goes down in an even bigger way?
Well, I think,
is it as simple as that?
I don't think they'll tow this. This group's too big. That's why it's not working well together. I believe that when we hit maybe the next climb, next section, you'll see Ethics go on the attack. Just a pity they lost Stibar. we don't know. Maybe he didn't feel too good, but I would have thought the Stibar would have been able to come. But still a lot of teams in this group here without representatives in the front. This is a big peloton, and just 53 seconds down the road you've got the elite group, but there's no real concerted chase whatsoever.
So Count de Court a little bit far down the back of the peloton, further back than you might expect the Team Giant Alpecin rider. And he might have thought could do a job today, but maybe these short, sharp bergs not really suiting his particular characteristics as a rider. There you have a visual representation of what's going on in E3 Harelbeke. Finally, we hit a bit of dual carriageway. This isn't a motorway, of course. They don't race on a motorway, but it's named after a motorway. The E3, which is now, of course, the E17. Once upon a time, this race was called the Harelbeke Antwerp Harelbeke. Then the E3 Price Harelbeke, and then the E3 Harelbeke they decided on just a few years ago. It was upgraded to World Tour level in 2012. And has increased in importance over the years, becoming a really important addition to any rider's palmares. Reigning champion Geraint Thomas is absent, so the dossard #1 worn by the world champion Peter Sagan, who's hiding as best he possibly can in this league group. He's involved, and how dearly he would love to take a win this afternoon. Well, the chase group behind are getting on down the watts on the front of the lead group, because the gap between themselves and the peloton behind, which is led by Trek Factory Racing and Team Katusha, is now down to inside half a minute, well inside a half a minute. It's coming down in big lumps and chunks. We've got, what, about 5 kilometers to go to the next berg. And as you see, Katusha and Trek Factory Racing have bodies in there to do a job. They're going to get a little bit of help too from Team Cannondale. Fabian Cancellara keen to encourage any assistance that he can possibly get to get back on terms. And this is a match pursuit, really, isn't it, between the 20-odd riders up front and the slightly larger peloton behind, albeit not so many of those riders actually working. And at what point do Edix Quickstep in the front group decide that they're not satisfied to let these riders back into contention? It certainly would change the character of this race dramatically if this group was to get back involved. I think they surely can't let it come down inside 20 seconds. Will attacks start to happen from riders as they approach the next climb? Will they stay in the wheels for as long as possible and just let those riders up front do the job? That's what you would expect professional riders to do. And with 50 kilometers to go, all seems very calm from Edix Quickstep. The responsibility for setting the pace, of course, falls to the men in blue, because they've got the big numbers up front and they're retaining as many of their troops as possible for the final, because we've still got a long way to go. Now the gap is yo-yoing, isn't it? Now it's showing at 29 seconds, 28. It doesn't seem to be huge difference, and that's a fantastic photograph, isn't it? It's wonderful to see those images of what exactly is involved. It looks like they could almost reach out and touch the riders up front, but it's absolute sheer savagery to try and get on terms. And a few twists and turns will help the front group. $50 kilometers remaining in E3 Harelbeke, and the question remains, will Fabian Cancellara, Alexander Kristoff et al. Be able to get back into contention, or will the group up front, led by Edix Quickstep, be able to hang on to contest the finish? Oh, and that's a little bit of a sketchy one there from that rider from Lotto Soudal. Comes charging down the bike path and manages to get it stopped and not take anyone out of it. 28 seconds to the group up front. Brian, care to have a little €1 bet on that one?
Well, it's still in the balance, and Trek doing a fantastic job. I didn't think it would be possible, not with the might of Ethics in the front. Apologies that Stibar never came over the race radio we're listening to, but it looked as if he had a puncture, nothing to do with his legs. But the pressure is on now. Trek have done a fantastic job of getting Cancellara as close to this as possible. Boy Van Poppel and Stuyven are in this this group, and you know, they were sitting as close to the front as possible to try and stop anybody working. But you've got Ethics now with 3 riders right at the front. I believe they want to keep the pressure on. They don't want Cancellara to come back to this group, but you can't stop them, because Trek are riding, Katusha are riding, and for Cancellara, I think he's going to come to the point where if this gap doesn't close, then a 20-second gap, he could possibly have to try and do it himself.
Well, that would be interesting to see. Former world time trial champion Fabian Cancellara, will it be left up to himself to try and jog across that gap? It would be a gargantuan effort, but you can be sure he's ready to pull the pin on that one very shortly and really try and go for it. If the group isn't, if they aren't connected up by the efforts of the domestiques. There's certainly lots of effort going on from Trek Factory Racing, Team Katusha, Team Cannondale trying to get involved. Lotto NL Jumbo just have 1 rider up front. They don't have any responsibility to do any chasing, and so far we haven't seen them make any effort. And look at all those other teams that are represented in front who, in a kind of a way, would like to get an opportunity to get up there to help their teammates, but they're certainly not going to help. 20 seconds now. The gap is coming down. This is a massive effort.
Drink time for De Volder here at the front, but it's 3 riders from Ethics, Vandenberg, Martin and Trentin leading the way at the front of this group.
Well, Tom Bonin, absolute superstar of E3 Harelbeke. No other rider has won this race as often as Tornado. Tom going for a 6th victory this afternoon. Rick Van Looy in the 60s took 4 wins. Jan Raas took 3 wins back in the 1980s. Fabian Cancellara's got 3 of the last 6 E3 Harelbekes, but the undisputed king of E3 Harelbeke is Tom Bonin. And he's in here. He's safely in that front group, and he's being marshalled and policed by his teammates up front. Stein Vandenberg, well, he's a very, very different physique, hasn't he, to the riders behind. I tell you what, Tony Martin's not tiny, but Vandenberg makes him look like a dwarf.
The world champions in this front group, Peter Sagan, good form, no teammates to help him. He's sitting in this group, being towed by the Ethics riders. 25 seconds down to Trek. Another interesting rider in here in the front group, former world champion, is Mikhail Kwiatkowski, who's in this group for Team Sky. They've got Stannard and they've got Puccio in the front, so they've got another card to play. There's still 47 kilometres to go. It's still Katusha, Trek and Cannondale trying to keep the pressure on, but just in front of Cancellara. He's only got, looks as if it's De Volder and 1 Katusha rider. The gap is starting to ebb out a little, slightly to 26 seconds. It's De Volder can only keep this going for so long. Cancellara might have to try and do something, but just look behind, 2 more blue jerseys of Ethics. And if Steve Barr, after his puncture, he obviously got the legs to go with it, then he has also got the young Wisniewski as well, the Polish rider. So the 2 blue jerseys, you just have to watch Cancellara, because if this gap held at this and they're not bringing it back, then he's going to have to think about it in this next climb to try and go across on his own.
Yeah, what an effort from Stein de Volder, former Belgian road race champion, of course, and former winner of Tour of Flanders. And De Volder's absolutely flying at the moment. Can he possibly retain this this level of strength and ability for any well for much longer? Little anxious look behind from Tony Martin. Looks very cool, calm and collected. Coming up to the Kappelberg, the fabled Kappelberg, maximum 7%, just under a kilometre in length. Tony Martin, Vandenberg and Matteo Trentin in line astern for the Ethics Quick Step at the front, and it's now gone out to almost half a minute, if these time gaps can be believed. They're certainly being updated with regularity.
But the thing is, after this climb comes the Patersberg and the Old Quaremont, so it's enough for Cancellara to try and come across, but it all really depends on the gap. They're looking to the right to see. It's 29 seconds still. Tony Martin, Stein Vandenberg, Trentin, Oss towards the front, and just looking back there, it looks as if one of their Stana riders have been dropped, Lawrence de Vries.
So that's bad news for Lars Bohm in the pale blue with the orange shoes. Halfway down the group, he's lost his teammate. He's flying solo, but he's well used to it, and he knows exactly what he has to do. This race can be won by riders that find themselves isolated, because it is for strongman, as we saw last year, 12 months ago. Wonderful victory for Geraint Thomas. First victory for Britain in E3. Harelbeke.
This looks like Niels Pollitt at the front. One of the revelations from the Samin. So it looks as if the young Katusha rider, the German rider, is doing a stellar performance. Just swings off now. De Volder just has to try and keep this gap down as much as possible. Behind him, you've got Cancellara, but just as we were saying earlier, Stybar is waiting for Cancellara to try and make a move. But this is hard for the front group. Tony Martin was grimacing Cancellara, but what an amazing rider and performance it has been today from Cancellara. When we thought it might have been all over, but it's still in the balance now.
Oops, a little bit of a moment for many of the riders. CM Cycling and Tinkoff Saxo involved there. Peter Sagan has a couple of lieutenants that can get involved and perhaps do a little bit of a job for him if they get back into contention. But that gap is going out. Big decision is going to have to be made by Fabien Cancellara. Does he try and rely on his teammates? Is he going to be able to get any more assistance from any of the other teams? And is he possibly capable of doing it on his own? Through the last little drag, we saw that he was pulling faces as well. So maybe he's just not feeling on absolutely top form after the chase that he's put in. And look at De Volder, he's absolutely turning himself inside out. But that gap has now gone up over half a minute. That group is lined out, but are they getting back in touch? Find out after these. We're on the Paterberg. Fourth climb from the finish. 34 seconds the advantage for the lead group, now led for the first time by Team Sky as they try to make sure that they eliminate the peloton behind. The peloton that is being led by Fabien Cancellara. So is this going to be the lead group that contests the victory this afternoon? It's been all about Ethics Quickstep for quite a long while, and Stein de Volder, I can tell you, has been... well, he's off the front of the peloton behind it. Now it's left up to Fabien Cancellara. Cracks starting to appear. And will he be dragging? Is this Stybar looking to come across with him?
Yeah, that's Stybar on the wheel. As you said, he had a puncture a little bit earlier. And with Cancellara, this is an opportunity. He used up Stein de Volder on his team as much as possible. It's been a valiant effort from Trek. They still have a rider, one rider now left in the front of this race. Looks as if they've lost one of the riders. I know that Stein Vandenberg has been dropped. Pucci's now been dropped. Devenines looks as if he's hanging on. This is the second rider from Trek. So it's now or never for Cancellara. After the Patersburg, then we head towards the old Quartermount. But these are the climbs that will set up the Tour de Flanders next week.
Well, riders are coming out of that front group with surprising speed. And look at this, the way that Fabien Cancellara is absolutely charging up. But of course now he's going to have to go onto the cobbles, the less favoured route up this climb. It's a real leg breaker, the Paterberg, 700 metres at 12%. It's an opportunity, I suppose, in one respect for Fabien Cancellara, and there'll be plenty of riders in between him. Maybe he could well find that he's got a couple of allies to give him a turn or two.
Well, I don't think Stybar will give any turn, and Laurens de Vries was kind of hanging on anyway. But the race is back on now. We're racing towards the old Quartermount, and I'm sure there'll be some more attacking there. Stannard is still here for Team Sky. Kwiatkowski, who led up the Patersburg there. Van Mark is there in the yellow. But Bonin looking as strong as I've seen him this year already. But who wants to kind of take this on, because we've already lost a couple of the Ethics riders, so we're left to Trentin and Bonin at the front. So they're looking behind. Are they going to regroup? Are they going to continue on? Because all of a sudden, from having 5-6 riders, Ethics only have Bonin, Terpstra and Trentin in this front group.
Well, they are the best represented team in the front group, but the front group considerably thinned down. Those world champion stripes on the sleeves of Michał Kwiatkowski on the front of the peloton. A little bit further back than the reigning world champion, Peter Sagan. He's been quiet so far this afternoon, but he's very much in position. On his wheel, Matteo Trentin, one of the 3 riders from Ethics Quickstep that are in here. Ian Stannard, former British national champion, is powering through on a big gear. Characteristically big gear, as Peter Sagan realizes that it's all hands on deck now. They've got to ride through and make sure that they hammer home their advantage, that they eliminate those riders that were left behind on the last climb. They've got 3 climbs now remaining. The Eau de Quermont coming up in just about 2 kilometers time.
Yeah, this is a group of the back markers now. Puccio, Sierra Roland's bit of a surprise, been dropped out the front group. Lotto Soudal in the red only have Benut in the front, but it's kind of hanging on. You can just see De Vries, this is my wheel, I'm staying in it. It's all systems to the pump now for Cancellara. Coming up is the Eau Quadramont. If he doesn't make it on the Eau Quadramont, which I think is going to be really difficult to do, but he's got the help of Van Poppel until we get to the Eau Quadramont, so he can save his legs a little bit. But the Eau Quadramont for Cancellara will be his last hope to try and come back to the front, which is going to be a super performance, because to have that derailleur off at that point of the race when it was all kind of splitting up, you know, I personally thought it's going to be race over for him, but we said he's a champion, he'll come back in and do what he can, and you know, he's only 30 seconds from the front of the race.
Well, as a training effort, I don't think anyone in the race is getting anything like Fabian Cancellara is getting. And as a piece of entertainment, well, it's been a joy, really, hasn't it? The way he's respected the race, the way he's shown his true champion qualities. Is he going to get there? Well, I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't bet against it either at this point, and I did a little earlier on. It would have been a waste of money. 2.2 kilometers is the Quaremont. It's 4.2%. That is going to be a big, big ask for him. But it is also, I suppose, if he has the strength, a big, big opportunity too. He's towing the riders along in his wake. And that is a thinned out front group. Inside 30 seconds now, so another couple of seconds gained in the last little while, as the riders in the lead group have a little bit of a consultation process going on.
Yeah, that's the difference. Devanines is the rider from IAM coming back, and it just goes to show you that he is coming back, which means that the front group have slowed, and this is what normally happens on this part of the road before they hit the cobbles of the Eau Quadramont. They'll get their breath, but you know, expecting maybe Boonen to try something on the Eau Quadramont now and kind of maybe split this group, because the world champion is there and he's not done anything. He's not got any teammates. But while this whittles down and he's still in you know, a good position, because before he was up against 6 Ethics riders. Now he's just sitting there, and we're on to the cobbles at the bottom of the Eau Quadramont now.
So how do you play this one? We hit the cobbles, 2.2 kilometers. As I said, and it's around about 5% on average. 4.2% is on average, but that gets up to 11%, and that is going to make the legs sting. Inside 40 kilometers remaining. Nicky Terpstra, well, we saw him in absolutely savage form in the Samin a few weeks ago, so clearly he's wintered well.
Yeah, this is just a long power climb. This goes on and on and on. It kind of levels out a little bit and then kicks up towards the top. But Terpstra keeping the pressure on. Trentin is there, but kind of losing the wheel ever so slightly. Then you get Stannard and Kwiatkowski. Oss is still there. Boonen, Benut, Bohm, Van Mark. Sagan is going to slip back to the back. Devanines just got on and now been tailed off the back. But this is a group that Cancellara has left, and he's just in front. Like we said, it's now or never. If he doesn't make it on the Eau Quadramont, then I don't think he will make it to the back.
Well, what an effort, and what well, he's got Stybar for company. Stybar, after that puncture a little earlier on, we suggested that he mightn't be on a great day, but well, no, he certainly had the legs to be in that front group. Disappointment for him, but he could be getting a little bit of a free ride back into contention if Fabian Cancellara can just summon up the strength to get back into contention. Well, it's going to be a big, big ask. But look at the crowd cheering him on as well. They might. 3-time winner of this race. Terpstra looks like he's on fine form, and he is putting it up to them. And Daniel Oss realises that he's just going to have to close that gap, because one or two of the other riders perhaps starting to feel the effects of a long day in the saddle. The crowd are out in force to cheer on, and that Swiss flag will give Cancellara a little bit of encouragement. Plenty of Swiss fans at the top of the Quaremont.
The thing we can say is we see Katusha's Christoph, not his day today. He looked to be struggling when we saw glimpses of him earlier on, but you know, Tour of Flanders winner last year, doesn't look as on form, which in the flip side, Cancellara looks as if he's on amazing form.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. If you're trying to hide your light under a bushel a week ahead of Tour of Flanders, this hasn't been exactly the way to do it, but that's not to criticise Fabian Cancellara, because it's been wonderfully entertaining work from him, and it's a hell of a workout as Nicky Terpstra
I'm just looking to see where Stuyven is. I think Stuyven has been dropped from this front group. Pressure still on from Trentin, but if Stuyven is getting dropped, save his energy a little bit, or it's a plan to try and help Cancellara back. But just as we see the world champion just coming up, he's just come up bang straight at the top of the quadrant.
Here comes Peter Sagan. He's not hanging around to let Fabian Cancellara get back involved. It's Sagan that fires first amongst the leading contenders and really stretches the legs of Nicky Terpstra. Lars Bohm finds himself, well, with the extra daylight appearing, and look at this, Fabian Cancellara is starting to pick up the riders that have been jettisoned by the efforts of Nicky Terpstra, and now subsequently by Peter Sagan, who now has a little look around to see what's happened. And well, what's happened is there's been an absolute explosion. Cancellara still charges on, and look at the cheers that he's getting, and plenty of Belgian fans will be cheering him too, because he's a hero to everyone throughout the world of cycling, and he's picking them off one by one, and this has got to be giving him a little bit of encouragement as Peter Sagan looks around to see the damage that he's done.
And certainly it has been damaged. It always is. When you go over the old Quaremont, you turn left, you go onto the big wide roads, a couple of, descents, and then it climbs up a little bit as well. But he's got a teammate in front of him, and Stuyven is looking behind, and hopefully he'll be able to help his team captain to try and come back to the front of the race, which is just in front of him on that climb.
Well, Sagan put in that vicious attack and now looks behind, and he sees in the distance, will he be able to pick out the imposing figure of Fabian Cancellara, who now has Jasper Stuyven for assistance to give him a dig out, and it looks the way that Stuyven is able to give him an effort as if Stuyven had indeed backed off. So that's a tactical play by Track Factory Racing, a brave one given a rider of Stuyven's ability was in the front group.
Yeah, but very noticeable in this front group. The three riders behind Bonin, Trentin and Kwiatkowski were dropped in distance. Now they're coming back. So it's still in the balance. Can't believe it's still 34 seconds. It got down to 20 seconds. But Stuyven is here to help Cancellara. I don't know how much help he can be, because he was starting to struggle a little bit and then pops onto a third wheel.
So he's going to do what he can. Meanwhile, up front, they're having a little look around as the gap comes down, as it so often does in between the bergs. They have a little bit of a review at this end as we come into the final, and nobody wants to play their cards too early. Terpstra moves to the right-hand side of the road, the left-hand side of picture, at least it was a moment ago, in his Dutch national champions colours, and rolls off the front as they throttle back a little bit. No throttling back from Fabian Cancellara. He hasn't freewheeled, I don't think, for more than a second or two over the past 30 kilometres. It has been absolutely relentless. Kwiatkowski is there for Team Sky. Trentin is there for Team Edix Quickstep. So too is Terpstra. And Stuyven now giving a dig out to Fabian Cancellara. The attack's going to come, isn't it? It's got to come. You just sense that they're not going to let this group back without a fight.
I don't think they've got a choice. I think Cancellara, and I personally didn't think he was able to come back. His teammates have done an amazing job. They've kept him in the race. Stuyven has got dropped and trying to help him back. It's what, how much Cancellara's done on his own, because he's having to do a bit of riding. He's pushing his teammate now. These guys are kind of looking at each other. Okay, when Cancellara does finally make it up here, we say that 16 seconds. I still think, because there's a few kilometres of this road before we go on to the next climb, I do believe he'll make it back. And it's great to be able to say that, to need my words, because I didn't think when that happened, he sheared his derailleur off, that we'd see him back to the front of the race. So it's testament to a true champion in his last year. Stuyven is bringing him across, and he's back in the race. But how much has he got in the tank?
Well, I say, is this a Pyrrhic victory of sorts? But at what cost? But what an impressive performance. Now inside 6 seconds, surely he's going to make it. Fabian Cancellara, we said he was dead and buried. E3 Harelbeke was done for him for 2016. Well, we were wrong. He's still involved in the race, very much involved in the race, and Peter Sagan gets that sinking feeling as he looks behind and sees the figure of Fabian Cancellara on the front of this chase group and coming back into contention. And he's bringing with him Stibar, of course, who has had a free ride more or less, and it hasn't been easy for Stibar, but it's been a little bit easier than it would have been had he had his nose in the wind for the last little while. So the group knits together. It's a slightly bigger group than was. Still 33.2 kilometers to go, and I can tell you the next climb, the penultimate climb of the day, the Carnelbeckstraat, is 1.5 kilometers long and just under 5%, and it comes with 31 kilometers. So we're just coming to the base of that climb now. It's not quite there yet, so still a little bit of work to be done. And I tell you what, they're going to hit this one like an absolute rocket. The afterburners are going to be fired in a big way from this group up front. How much energy has been retained in that stall from the guys up front?
Well, hats off to Trek, Segafredo and Cancellara. Never write off a good man, and in his final year he's shown absolute amazing form, just ahead of the Paris-Roubaix and Tour of Flanders. So he makes it. The junction's made. When we saw him standing at the side of the road, dejected, we thought, this is an eternity. I don't think he's going to make it back, because in that situation there's groups all over the place and there's no cars between, nobody to help him. Absolutely amazing, and hats off to Cancellara.
And his composure as well, because he wasn't exactly jumping up and down. He did toss the bike aside somewhat disconsolately, but wasn't quite the the show of anger and temper that we've seen from other riders over the past, which in fairness would for many be justified. So now we've a bigger group up front. We've got extra reinforcements for Etixx Quick-Step. We've got 2 riders there for Trek Factory Racing, but indeed 2 riders for BMC as well. Drucker's there, so Kwiatkowski and Stannard capable of doing a job for Team Sky. And feeling a little bit vulnerable at the back will be Peter Sagan, strongest man, or at least the fastest man and the first man up the last climb. How many more matches has he got to burn? Well, remarkably, 7 times he's been second in UCI races since Richmond last year without taking a victory. Yet to take the honours while wearing the rainbow jersey. Could it be his day? He's won this race before, of course, won it a couple of years ago. And Ian Stannard didn't really enjoy the Quarmont, did he? It was a bit of a job to get back in there after that.
No, it was a difficult period over the last 25-30 kilometres. The race has been full on, and now we've got a group, and it's the kind of calm before the storm now. Everybody's trying to kind of gather the strength that they've got left. Stibar has been handed another opportunity after a puncturing a little bit earlier. Still numbers from Etixx in the front group. Thies Benoot is still there for Lotto Soudal, just riding quietly, but we saw a little bit of an effort on the old Quarmont from Peter Sagan, so he looks strong enough. But the ride of the day so far has been Fabian Cancellara, and how much has it taken out of him? He's still looks okay, still in the race, still very possible of winning A3.
And he got back in with 31 kilometers to go. I suppose he needed to get back in before they really got to the business end of the final, but he's given him a little bit of time to recover, perhaps. They don't look minded to go up this with the same intensity that they went up the last climb.
No, I think the racing has been hard until now. They think, attacking now, 31 kilometers to go, is a wee bit too far. So they're just going to look at each other, keeping the pressure on. Kwiatkowski is the rider that now decides. So former world champion with the current world champion making an effort here. Stibar now coming up to join them. So it looks as if Sky want to try and do something on this climb, kind of weaken everybody else up for a possible attack later on from Ian Stannard.
Yeah, for all that Stibar got a more comfortable ride across to that group than Fabian Cancellara did, he still had to make a big effort, didn't he? He still was going faster than the group ahead of him.
He's getting dropped now again. He made that effort. He had to go. Now Trentin has looked back, and he has to make it, because if he doesn't make it, Etixx don't have a rider in the front group. So I think that Trentin, if he does make it, not too sure he is, but if he does make it from Sagan and Kwiatkowski, then Etixx are on the back foot. Cancellara at the front of the group now, just riding steady, and steady got him back to the front of the race. He's going to keep this group together, but does look as if Sagan is starting to look better and better in this race. Kwiatkowski riding an amazing race. So it's still in the balance, 30 kilometres to go.
Team Sky, the defending champions. Kasper Stuyven did a great job for Fabian Cancellara. It was dropped, of course, on the 2 hills ago, but managed to at least find the strength to make a couple of efforts to aid Fabian Cancellara's return to the front group. Peter Sagan and Michał Kwiatkowski, the last 2 world champions, giving champion performances. 1 minute and 13 seconds to the peloton that Cancellara left behind. I'd say it's not a huge group either. And we're not going to see them again, I don't think, on television at this moment, because all the attention is on these 2 up front and the riders that are chasing them. Terpstra's decided to see what he can do, because Trentin wasn't capable of going with them, and the wheels very much in danger of falling off the Etixx Quick-Step wagon. Something needs to happen quick. Nicky Terpstra's capable of making it happen. They're watching the race go up the road. 2 of the top racers, one-day racers in the world. For all that, Peter Sagan has only ever won 3 World Tour one-day races, this being one of them a couple of years ago. So he really does need to add to his palmarès to, well, I think, meet the expectations not just of his fans and his public, but also of himself. Kwiatkowski on the front, Lars Bohm behind, in the colours of Astana, the blue with those orange shoes. And he's got some assistance from his fellow Dutchman Nicky Terpstra there. So Kwiatkowski and Sagan joined in the 26 kilometres remaining in E3. Harelbeke for 2016 as Peter Sagan does another turn, takes another look behind. Michał Kwiatkowski, neither of them is pulling faces at the moment. They're trying to show that this is not too difficult. It's all relatively cool, calm and collected. Well, I can tell you it's not like that behind, because the gap's gone out now. It's indicating at 14 seconds to this group of favourites behind, who led them away on the last climb. Trentin and Terpstra from Etixx Quick-Step did what they could to try and get back in contention, but now they're very much in danger of letting this one go up the road. And it's looking good at the moment for the 2 world champions, Brian.
Yeah, big pressure for Etixx Quick-Step now. They tried to have Stibard there and Trentin, didn't happen, and all they needed was one rider with them, and yeah, I think this could have gone. But now they're in the back foot, having to chase this hard. The one rider that is getting a big benefit is Ian Stannard. Just has to be very vigilant, just getting caught in the second half there, but he can just sit in the wheels. There's no teammates for Peter Sagan. There's no Tinkoff riders here. So by rights, with one rider in front, Kwiatkowski, Team Sky's Ian Stannard can have an easier move. He's still got one more climb to come, the Tegenberg, and after that it's kind of plain sailing all the way in towards the finish. But Peter Sagan looking strong. He came to the front in the old Quaremont. Kwiatkowski's been looking quite sprightly today as well, but the blue jerseys of Etixx now in the back foot.
Well, we're not going to talk about a finishing sprint or a finale that's fought out between 2 riders just yet, because that's a significantly sized group that has been towed along by the very, very powerful steam engine that is Nicky Terpstra at the moment for Etixx Quick-Step, putting down the watts, heading towards the Tegenberg. That comes with just on 20 kilometres remaining in the race. It's still almost 5 kilometres before they reach the Tegenberg. It's a kilometre long, 6.5% average, and just a little stretch of cobbles to remind them that they're in Belgium, as if they could possibly forget after what has been a pretty savage, intense and wonderful example of Belgian classics racing. Strongmen of the race are up front now, as you might expect. They are riders with pedigree, palmarès and the stripes on their sleeves and jerseys to prove it. Behind them, Etixx Quick-Step naturally taking the responsibility for chasing. Ian Stannard, as Brian has mentioned, has the advantage of being able to sit in the wheels, because his teammate Kwiatkowski up front is racing to glory in Harelbeke this afternoon. If you were to pick a favourite out of these two in terms of the strength being displayed, you'd have to say it's Peter Sagan. Am I imagining it? What is left from Jesper Stuyven? What's left from his teammate Fabian Cancellara, who's sitting about 4th or 5th wheel here and must be feeling a little bit frustrated after what's been a magnificent effort from the Trek Factory racing man in his final year of racing, or so he says. Well, we've no reason to disbelieve him, but it's been such a wonderful season. It's hard to leave. Well, to this point, it's early days, of course, and we're only just getting into the meat of the classic season from his point of view. But Fabian Cancellara has had great form, and you just think that he is bringing fantastic legs to the back end of his career. Terpstra over into the footpath on the right-hand side of the road for a little bit of light relief from the roughness of the cobbles, and into the wheel of his teammate Stybar, who also made an effort to get across to Sagan and Kwiatkowski. So now plenty of riders in the wheels and not too many willing to take it on, and that can only mean good things for Kwiatkowski and Sagan up front. Are they at the stage of deciding to play it out between them? Does one or the other think about going solo up the final climb?
Well, the only person that could I was thinking about going solo would be Kwiatkowski. Obviously, Sagan looks as if he's in good form. So is Kwiatkowski. Two strong riders, 26 seconds now. So it's looking very good for both the riders. Still that one climb to go. The onus now is on the team of Ethics Quickstep to bring it back or put themselves in a position. They've got 4 riders in this group behind. Ian Stannard's getting a free ride, sitting 3rd wheel. But the question is, still 22 kilometres to go. Of the 2 riders in front, for sure, Kwiatkowski can sprint well, but not as well as Peter Sagan. So I think they can't play around at the moment. They have to come to this last climb, and I think Kwiatkowski has to try and do something and test the world champion out. If not, it's going to be very difficult to get rid of him in the run-in.
Well, both of them are very, very accomplished sprinters. If they feel that they're on a strong day, then there really isn't a whole lot to choose between either of them, is it?
No, it has been a hard race, but I would say both of them, Sagan would be my favourite to win a sprint. But Kwiatkowski can, you know, afford to be a little bit more patient, try something in the run-in because he knows he has to. But it's still in the balance, 25 seconds, and you know, still anything can happen. What happened today has been, you know, it's been a drama-packed E3. Cancellara is still very capable of trying to do something. He's been sitting in the wheels. He looked strong enough in the previous climb. Let Ethics, Boonen and Trentin keep this gap down and do not write Cancellara off, as we've already seen today.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see what happens on this final climb coming up very shortly. We're going to the lower reaches of it any moment soon as the riders pick up their final bottles. Their remaining sustenance to get them through to the checkered flag, but what's going to happen? Will it be the 2 riders up front to battle it out, or can any of those riders behind possibly conceivably get in contention after the Tegenberg? What's certain is that with the gap coming down a couple of seconds in the last kilometre, that Sagan and Kwiatkowski cannot afford to let up. You sense perhaps that the bigger pressure is on the reigning world champion. That fabled curse of the rainbow jersey, imagined or otherwise. Well, it's been discussed in terms of Peter Sagan as early as March in the season of his reign. And, well, with those 7 second-place finishes, he would dearly love to get a victory. He's been on great form. Nicky Terpstra is getting his instructions on how they're going to play the finale. First of all, they've got to get back into contention, and you know that it's Ethics Quickstep. If they have the physical strength, then they have to display it now to try and get their riders back up front. Devin Inns takes on a Gel. Gel's going in at the front of the group, and you know the battle is about to happen. Half a minute now, the advantage being displayed for our leading duo as they hit this final ramp of the day, the final big ramp. 1,000 meters with a maximum gradient of 9%. Any one of these hills taken in isolation, well, it really wouldn't affect riders of this caliber. But heap them one on top of the other, And this, the 15th and final ascent of the day. Sagan wants to have a look at Kwiatkowski. Sagan with that hunched, busy sort of style. Kwiatkowski a little bit more classic in appearance. Both of them superbly effective. Jempe Drucker in the group behind, just back of the team car, taking on a bottle. He's got a fast finish. He could do a job for BMC, and they, remember, have Daniel Oss as well. So they've got two riders in there. Stuyven goes to the front to do what he can with what he's got left. Surely can't be a lot left at this point. And what's going to happen from Fabian Cancellara? Surely he's going to try and launch something, and you just get an indication of how difficult that gradient is, as these two riders who have managed to put 37 seconds into the riders behind find themselves winching themselves up the top of the slope. Riders behind now over half a minute behind. Is someone going to fire?
It doesn't look like that at the moment. I think they're all suffering, and you got to remember that Stuyven has done a hell of a lot of work already. So the situation that you know, we find ourselves in now in this race is Stuyven, who is tired riding at the front. Ethics were unable to shut this down. We get to the top of the last climb, and it's 30 seconds still. It's just holding out there. So still 18.5 kilometers to go, but Stuyven swings over. Nobody really wants to take it up. Two strong riders down the road, Sagan and Kwiatkowski. It's going to be very difficult now to bring them back, but I don't think this race is over yet. I still think there's some attacks left, but Ethics with the riders that I've had at the front of today, has seen this race kind of disappear down the road for them. Yeah, massively disappointing from Ethics, from a team with such a classics pedigree, and a team manager in the shape of Patrick Lefebvre accepts nothing less than the win. That's the only thing that matters to them. But they've ridden well. Up until now, they've ridden well. They've ridden strong. They've had numbers in the front, and that's all you ask. When Sagan and Kwiatkowski went on the climb, Stibar and Trentin couldn't stay with it. That's a game changer there. They couldn't go with the attack of Sagan and Kwiatkowski. So now the world champion and former world champion, they're on their own. It's pretty similar roads all the way in for the last 17 kilometers now. So both of them working well together. Kwiatkowski, as you know, can sprint well. Sagan can sprint well. So it's interesting to see what's going through their head. They're having a little chat, so they're happy with the situation, and you know, they can't hang about 37 seconds. They can't hang about, so they have to ride in and maybe in the last few kilometers to see how things play out. Element of psychology is well involved there, isn't there, with Kwiatkowski constantly chatting to Sagan, trying to make it all appear a little bit nonchalant, as if he's got plenty of energy and it's all not so difficult. It's a constant battle of wills, of wits, a psychological scrap as much as it is a physical one. For Nicky Terpstra, there's none of those considerations at the moment. They've just got to get back into contention. The gap is going out. You wonder where the strength and the missing seconds are coming from at this point. The thing is, Sagan, no teammates behind, so he has to just, you know, 100%. Kwiatkowski has got Stannard behind, so, you know, maybe if he's doing slightly less work, it doesn't look as if he is at the moment. But you got to remember, 12 months ago, with the three riders that were in front, and you thought, you know, this is going to be a Sagan win here, and Geraint just, you know, went at the right time and you know, pulled off a great win. So still could happen for Kwiatkowski, who looks quite good. Kwiatkowski looks very good indeed. The destination of honours in this race very much in the balance at the moment, but the gap is continuing to rise, and very soon those riders are going to be out of sight, even on such a long straight road. Element of frustration for Trek Factory Racing. They've got the man sitting fourth in line, Fabian Cancellara, clearly on a fabulous day, but unfortunately he's left so much of his strength out the road after a long, hard chase. Stuck at the side of the road with a broken bike for what seemed like
agonizing minutes. It was certainly a long time, and he saw group after group going past before a team car could get to him. Eventually got on his bike and chased his way back to this group, and I'll tell you what, it was a sight to behold. But unfortunately, when he got there, he left too much energy in that chase, and Peter Sagan and Kwiatkowski managed to separate themselves from this chasing group with relative ease. It appeared to be easy, but you've no doubt about it. It's impressive athletic ability being displayed by those two riders as they extend their advantage now well over half a minute, 35 seconds. Still 15 kilometers to go, though.
Yeah, they have to keep at it, and they can't ease off, but it's 2 against 2.
Chase, you might say, by Zdenek Stybar, Niki Terpstra, Fabian Cancellara, Jesper Stuyven et al. But many of these riders are pretty much out on their feet at this moment. You sense that they're a beaten docket, but the riders up front have to keep riding. And tactically, that changes things.
It's 2 against 2 at the moment. You've got Stybar and Terpstra riding at the front for Ethics. You've got Sagan and Kwiatkowski riding off the front 35 seconds down the road. So both the two riders from Ethics and Kwiatkowski and Sagan are you know, expending energy. You've got another 8 riders sitting on the wheels behind, still 13 kilometers to go. So if they can keep it as close to 30 seconds as possible. We just saw Stuyven come up to Cancellara and say to him, you know, do I ride? Do you want me to ride? And he says, no, just keep calm. Let Ethics keep them at about 30 seconds. Once we get in, you know, because let them kind of hang out. I'm not saying they're letting them hang out there. I think they're 2 strong riders that they've not got a choice. But just keep it calm at the moment. We've already seen Cancellara has been calm already today. So we get closer to maybe the 5 kilometers to go, and then we might see some action from some of the others.
Well, that would be interesting, although that's not a very encouraging sign. Maybe that's for some of the other riders in the group, but Cancellara just shaking his thigh as if to try and shake some of the cramp out of it. Everyone's going to be feeling it a little bit at this point. Devenins have managed to get back into contention. Van Mark's been very quiet all afternoon, but he's managed to get himself into the pointy end of the race. Hasn't shown too many cards, maybe not physically capable. That gap starting to stretch out to almost 40 seconds. I'm making assumptions that that's going to be enough for Sagan and Kwiatkowski as long as they keep riding. But Brian, you could well be right. Maybe Cancellara feels he's just going to wait and wait. Give those guys up front as much rope as they require.
The thing is, he's just asked Stuyven. He said in his radio, come round me, sit in front of me. He started to move back, but when he started to move to the back of the group, Daniel Oss moved to the back of the group with him. So I think they're starting to think maybe Cancellara is thinking of trying to do something in the run-in, and that's when Cancellara moved to the left, moved back. Daniel Oss from BMC just moved back completely with him, just watching him.
You know, his very presence in that group, of course, people know that he has this incredible turn of speed, this pursuiter's ability to just race off the front, and if you give him 5 yards, that's probably all that he needs.
Well,
and
he's
that
hoping,
could be inhibiting some of the other riders.
He's hoping that Stybar and Terpstra hold this about 30 seconds. He's hoping, because if Cancellara goes and Oss is on the wheel, the two of them could go across, and by that time Kwiatkowski and Sagan are, you know, somewhat tired at that point. So it's just having a little bit of patience at the moment, but this gap has to stay about 30 seconds. But this man, I think, has got something still up his sleeve, and this man knows it behind him, Daniel Oss.
Well, up front, you've got the 2 world champions, Michał Kwiatkowski and Peter Sagan, but it seems as if E3 for 2016 has been all about one man, Fabian Cancellara, his mechanical maladies, his various travails in trying to get back into the group, and now he seems to hold the key to a lot of riders' tactical considerations at the moment. On the front once more, Peter Sagan drilling it all the way to Harelbeke this afternoon, with the great Polish rider Michał Kwiatkowski for company. And those two, that's a nice spangly frame, isn't it? That
glitter effect.
Yeah, that's very, very impressive. Bit of paintwork. I wonder how much extra weight that added to it. Probably none at all. Kwiatkowski's not been found wanting. He's giving plenty of turns, and that gap at 37, 36 seconds hasn't changed a whole lot in the last couple of kilometres. Now coming up, 10 kilometres to go in E3. What a great afternoon of bike racing we've had. Those 15 climbs playing their part, as you would expect, in what for many people is a bit of a mini Tour of Flanders. Still the two groups on the same stretch of road, and can be put in the same picture, depending on how they want to do it. Nicky Terpstra and Zdenek Stybar are the sacrificial lambs on behalf of Edix Quickstep and the rest of the riders in the group. Quickstep protecting Tom Bonin, and their fastest man in the group, probably, Matteo Trentin. Either himself or Bonin are always capable of a very, very fast group sprint. And they are the cards that team are playing. The other teams in there, BMC, Trek Factory Racing et al., playing a watching brief at the moment. It's effective stuff. It's come down a couple of seconds in the last kilometre, but is it coming down enough? And when are we going to see the big push? Is it, are any of the other riders capable of it? You get the sense that there's something of a phony war at the moment. Zdenek Stybar probably wouldn't agree with that. For him, it's a full-on assault to try and get back into contention. The BMC man sitting fourth in line at the moment is Jempi Druk. He's another fast man as well. He's got a sprint. There's a few riders that have good finishes. Would fancy themselves if it comes down to a group sprint.
Yeah, there's a few of them. It's a hard race, sprinting after 200 kilometres when you've been over all these cobbles and climbs. It's difficult, but Stuyven is still sitting in third place. He's not contributing with the chase. You can just see the two riders, Kwiatkowski, Sagan, just disappearing around the corner. They're still holding them just over 30 seconds, which is suiting a lot of the riders, but it's still in the balance at the moment. The two riders in front can ease up, and Terpstra and Stybar are absolutely killing themselves. But you know, there's only Sky and Tinkoff in the front group with so many other teams. So concentration time. But I can't see this happening all the way into towards the finish. Something's going to have to happen in the next few kilometres.
Yeah, the professional bike riders, something is definitely going to give here in a big way tactically. Inside 8 kilometres to go, and just on 32 seconds, which is actually the smallest that this gap has been between the Terpstra-led chase group and the two riders up front, Peter Sagan and Michał Kwiatkowski, in the last 5 or 6 kilometres. So they're starting to make inroads. Now they're indicating 28 seconds. If we can believe that, then that's very, very encouraging news. Perhaps the riders up front starting to tire a little. Is it the gradient that's affecting them? As Dries Devenins for EM Cycling, he just watches what's happening in front. Kwiatkowski replaces Sagan at the front. Kwiatkowski, big signing for Team Sky this year. Big moment for them. They'd dearly love to come up with some big classic wins. Defending champions, of course. It's the Monument victory in Tour of Flanders next week. Well, we could have an indication that they have potential in that, coming from Michał Kwiatkowski, or perhaps indeed from Ian Stannard, who's almost at the back of the group here as well. Kwiatkowski's teammate. And you can be sure he'll be gone like a shot if they chase this one down. He's been saving as much energy as he possibly can. Sepp van Mark is in that group as well. We haven't said too much about him lately. And he's a fast man in the finish, and also capable of perhaps launching a late attack. Inside half a minute, the gap is starting to come down.
Yeah, still holding there, 2 against 2 still. Sagan and Kwiatkowski on the left, and Terpstra and Stybar on the right-hand side. Stuyven is just sitting there. Jempi Drucker can sprint, Lars Boom can sprint, Van Mark can sprint. So, you know, there's a few riders in here that have got a fairly fast finish. We know that Bonin is sitting towards the back, I think trying to look after Trentin. That would be their best bet, but Stybar and Terpstra have to bring these two riders back if nobody's going to make an effort. You see Kwiatkowski just trying to chase motorbikes, get as much help as possible, because you know, they've been out here for some time in this long straight road, and both of them are starting to get tired, just like Stybar and Terpstra. How long can they keep it up?
6.3 seconds now, down to 27 seconds. You would have said this was done and dusted a few minutes ago. You would have said it if you were foolish. And certainly anyone who ruled out Fabian Cancellara once wouldn't be minded to do it again. And he's in here, and he has encouraged his young teammate Jesper Stuyven not to be too impetuous, not to believe that this is done at this point, and to save it for a little while longer, because this one is not yet finished. 5.9 kilometers remaining. Nicky Terpstra still believes on behalf of Edix Quickstep. His teammate Zdeněk Stybar in his wake, as Tom Bonin takes the last dregs from his bidon and prepares for a finishing sprint. Will it be for victory? Will it be for third place? 26 seconds now as Zdeněk Stybar finds the motivation and the energy to go back to the front and give another big dig. These two riders up front starting to tire a little bit. These drags up over flyovers are going to feel like Tour de France mountains at this point. Peter Sagan seems to be doing the slightly longer turns on the front. Kwiatkowski, well, is he being cagey, or has he just not quite got the energy? The one that really needs this win, you suspect, is Peter Sagan, but Kwiatkowski, well, he would like it too. But he will also know the sort of pressure that is on Peter Sagan to come up with the win.
Yeah, pressure on, when you get the World Champions jersey on, it's a little bit more pressure. I think Kwiatkowski is looking for an opportunity. He can't take it at the moment because it's only 29 seconds. Stybar is gone now. He has done a lot of work, so it's come down to the last 5 kilometers, 28 seconds. Stybar has done his work at the front. Only Terpstra is left, and just noticed that Stuyven is gone back to have a chat with Cancellara. So still in the balance, but the balance is swayed a little bit to the front two riders now that Stybar is gone.
Well, Jeppe Drucker finds himself on the front, somewhere he hasn't been of late. He's got Daniel Oss a little bit further behind, but Drucker might have been lining up for a sprint. So now you sense a little bit of a stall up front, and that's immediately converted into, well, 30 seconds down, sorry, back to 27. So let's not assume that it's coming down at any rate of rapidity, but they're still pushing on up front. But Drucker on the front of the group. Who's going to take it up in that group with the absence now of Zdeněk Stybar? Are they going to use one more of the Edix riders?
Well, it's interesting times and nervous times for everybody at the moment. They've taken the neutral service car out, so coming down to 22 seconds. I think we could possibly see Kwiatkowski. If he looks behind, he has to try and do something very soon.
Well, can we believe that the gap is really coming down like that? That suddenly it goes from 27 to 24 to 21, 19, now 17 seconds. They can almost reach out and touch them. But these two riders up front have been out there for a long time, and they're inside 4 kilometers remaining as Peter Sagan, he'll be starting to get that familiar pit in his stomach as he thinks about the potential for glory this afternoon. Michał Kwiatkowski is being left on the front for an extended turn, and he'll be wondering when Sagan is going to come around him again. 17 seconds. Is the chase going to come from behind? Are they going to continue to ride it in, or are attacks going to start kicking off? I suspect we're going to see one very shortly. The twists and turns through this village, a little bit of relief for the riders up front.
Well, Bonin has started to ride on the front. That's why this gap is coming down. Their best opportunity now is with Matteo Trentin. So the Italian could be digging him out of a bit of a hole. Still 19 seconds. Bonin and Terpstra trying to lead the way, but these two riders know they'll have the radio in their ear telling, you know, from the sports director saying, look, you need to keep riding all the way towards the finish, and that's why we're not seeing any attacks. A quick look behind by Kwiatkowski, you can see them in the difference. But these riders have been flat out for the last 15 kilometres.
Less than 3 kilometres remaining. Peter Sagan behind with Michał Kwiatkowski in front, and they're being chased down inside 20 seconds. And you've got a 5-time winner of this race now acting as super domestique. Matteo Trentin, we believe, is the man that Ericsson Quickstep are going to ask to come up with the victory this afternoon. But they've got to get back to these riders, and they've got a handy advantage heading into the last 2.5 kilometres. So now the jockeying for position between the two riders up front. They can't afford to mess around too much and to play games. And Sagan will know that the elbow's flying, and every time he goes to the front, he's afraid, he's fearing that Kwiatkowski is going to stay there. Likewise for Kwiatkowski, he'll be feeling the heat of Sagan on his shoulder behind. Both of them nervous, looking around, continuing to make the effort, jettisoning the bottles. And how much strength is left in the legs after what has been an absolutely ferocious 204 kilometres. Still another couple of kilometres of racing to get through as Peter Sagan takes them up with 2 kilometres remaining.
Yeah, both of them getting very nervous now. Both of them looking behind. They'll see the distance, but Bonin is starting to write this down with Terpstra, who's done a hell of a lot of work today in the front, but their best option is now with Matteo Trentin. It's come down even more now, but Terpstra is now at the back, so it's up to Bonin. Can Bonin bring back Kwiatkowski and Peter Sagan for Matteo Trentin? I'm not too sure he can do it all on his own. 14 seconds. There's still an opportunity here. Will someone else try and have a go? Will these two start messing around? It's going to be touch and go. Well,
it means that they're going to have to ride it all the way to the finish. I can't imagine there's going to be a last kilometre attack from either of these riders. Surely they're being made aware that the gap is now down to 13 seconds with Fabian Cancellara lurking at the back. Will we have one of his trademark last kilometre attacks? Little bit of a stall. Lars Bohm just drops off the front. He doesn't want to have to do this one, as continuing to pile on the pressure on the front is Tom Bonin. And now has the gap down almost to single figures. Kwiatkowski, a little nervous look over his shoulder. What's going to be the information that he gets? Well, they're around these twists and turns, and he realizes that they're still clear, and that's probably a little bit of a false confidence that that'll give them. They're underneath the kite. 11 seconds to the good. Peter Sagan on the front. And his ears will be burning now, because he will feel Kwiatkowski. I'm not just sure Kwiatkowski's going to go back to the front. Looks like Sagan could well have to lead this one out from the front. And he is the preeminent sprinter of the two, but Kwiatkowski is no slouch in a sprint. This could go either way. They're into the final finishing barriers, well inside the final kilometre. Surely they're going to duke it out for victory in E3, but look at the pack baying behind. Who is going to take it? Still Bonin tries to lead them to the line. No late attacks. They're inside 500 metres, inside 300 metres. There goes Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski tries to launch on Sagan. Has Sagan got the straight? Kwiatkowski gets a couple of bike lengths advantage, and it looks as if Michał Kwiatkowski is going to resign. Peter Sagan to yet another runner-up spot. What a fantastic performance by Team Sky as they defend the title. And it's Michał Kwiatkowski that takes victory in E3 Harelbeke for 2016. It's a disappointed, disconsolate figure of Peter Sagan that comes across the line. A disappointed second. It's a 1-3 finish for Team Sky as Ian Stannard shows the strength that he retained in the group behind with a wonderful third place finish. Well, wonderful celebrations for Team Sky. A nice little bit of an ambush there from
he was completely napping there. Sagan was completely napping. It looked as if he didn't have much left. He done a lot of riding with Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski just the strongest in the end, but Peter Sagan rode that totally wrong. It looked as if he was riding for second place there, because he left him totally for dead and totally napping. Just his reaction at the finish. It was a hard race for everybody. And Kwiatkowski, wow, that's a super performance. And Geraint Thomas's win last year. Kwiatkowski comes over to Sky, win in E3 Harelbeke, and Stannard gets third. So a good day for Team Sky. But this man here, when is he going to get that win in the World Champions jersey?
That's 8 now. 8 runners up for Peter Sagan. He's going to be a very disappointed man. Second place in E3 does not a delighted Peter Sagan make, so he will be a little bit crushed. Kwiatkowski will head forward to the Tour of Flanders on Sunday week. boosted by that. 5 times in the last 11 editions, the winner of this race has gone on to take victory in Tour of Flanders. So that's his odds have definitely shortened. Stibar, well, it was a great effort, wasn't it? He did what he could. He got across with Cancellara and he gave of himself in the absolute maximum fashion, but ultimately very disappointing afternoon for Etixx Quick-Step.
Etixx had the numbers in the front.
Many
Unfortunately, they didn't have the winner.
Many people will call this a surprise, holding off Sagan like this.
Yeah, what I can say, you know, I was really motivated going. Congrats. I mean, I did my best, you know. I was perfectly protected by my mates, you know. Ian Stade was there in the front. We could play very well, and actually we work together with Peter as 2 years ago in Harelbeke. You know, the memories went back, but honestly, I knew that I had really good legs today, and that I have to go for the win. There is no other option, but you know, I know the feeling of Peter, how it is to wear the World Champion jersey as well. It's very difficult, but you know, I think both of us did really good race.
You took him by surprise, kind of, in the end?
You know, after I don't know, 30-40 kilometers, you know, going both together, I knew that I have to go like with the long sprint, because Peter seems to have this kick, this punch bigger than me. So I tried to go like more than 300 meters before the finish, and that worked out. So I didn't look back, just went full gas to the finish.
Classic question: the one who wins E3 usually is a favorite for the Tour of Flanders.
Oh, you know, I did a few times Tour of Flanders, but I never did it very well. But you know, I just feel really good in Team Sky. Being one of the leaders for Couples Classics is an amazing feeling, to be so protected and to finish like that. E3 after even not doing any classics before is just more than I was dreaming about it. So yeah, thank you.
Enjoy a big win. Congrats, Michael.
Well, great, very gracious credit to his teammates and credit to the team as the riders from the peloton made their way in for the finishing sprint. 4 minor positions of little consequence, because Michał Kwiatkowski's given the Sky team exactly what they wanted when they signed him. Big signing from Etixx Quick-Step. They've lost some strong legs. Could have done with them this afternoon. They got riders in the group. Didn't quite get the victory that they would have hoped for. The victory going to Michał Kwiatkowski ahead of Peter Sagan. Ian Stannard getting up for third. Fourth for Fabian Cancellara. What a result after a great chase. Jasper Stuyven just behind him. Lars Bohm, Tej Benoot, Sepp van Mark, Jempe Drucker and Daniel Oss rounding at the top 10 in another thrilling edition of E3 Harelbeke.